ML. Messages distributed by electronic means from one computer user to one or more recipients via a network. ML. Electronic mail is a computer best application for the exchange of messages between users. A worldwide email network allows people to exchange email messages very quickly. A method to send messages from one computer to another computer through the internet. Video conferencing is a technology that allows users in different locations to hold face-to-face meetings without having to move to a single location together. Text message, an electronic communication sent and received by mobile phone. Text message. Text messaging or texting is the act of composing and sending electronic messages, typically consisting of alphabetic and numeric characters, between two or more users of mobile device, desktop, laptops, or another types of compatible computer. Text messaging is the act of sending short, alphanumeric communications between cell phones, pagers, or other and held device as implemented by a wireless carrier. Notes: a short informal letter or writing message. Writing an important message or important information. Calls, an instance of speaking to someone on the phone or attempting to contact someone by phone. If you make a phone call, you dial someone's phone numbers and speak to them by phone. Things to consider in communicating in the workplace. Number 1. Purpose. A. Am I writing to create a record, to request I provide information, or to persuade? A request can be written for several purposes, such as asking a favor from someone in the employment. Their purpose is to provide reliable evidence of an information about who, what, when, and why something happened. In cases, the requirement to keep certain records is clearly defined by laws, regulation, or professional practice. B. What I'm trying to say. Process recording is a tool used by the student, this field instructor, and the process recording is an excellent device for records, evidence, and information.
Things to consider in communicating in the workplace. Number 2, the audience. Audience is the person or people you want to communicate with. Letter A. Who will read what I have written? Of course, the audience. Letter B. What are their job titles and area of responsibilities? So their jobs is to understand what are being said of the speaker. Letter C. What do they already know about about the specific situation? Letter D. Why do they need this information? Not only listening to any information enhance your ability to understand better, but also it makes you a better communicator. Letter E. What do I want them to do as a result of receiving it? Letter F. What do factors might influence the response? Of course, your pronunciation, your grammar, knowledge of how sounds merge or get reduced, and your overall listening time, visual support, vocabulary size, concentration. The next is broad categories of workplace communication. First one is the upward communication, which means that from your position to an audience in the job hierarchy. Example, a response to a letter from your manager. Next is the lateral communication, meaning between you and an audience within your level of hierarchy. Example, a phone call to or from a coworker you are collaborating with. Next is the downward communication. Means that from your position to an audience below you in the job hierarchy. Example, an oral reminder to a trainee. And the last one is the outward communication. Between you and the company that you do business with or an audience outside your workplace. Example, a letter of inquiry addressed to a supplier regarding a delivery to your office.
Things to consider in communicating in the workplace. Tone. It will set how your target audience will accept what you are trying to say. You do not have to sound too demanding or consisting in your discourse, especially in sensitive subject or issues. Workplace communication will fail the ethics test if it is corrupted by any of the following tactics. Number 1. Suppression of information. When data are suppressed, the information is entirely removed or deleted, most commonly in files and reports that are publicly shared. Number 2. Falsification or fabrication. Making up data result and recording or reporting them. Number 3. Overstatement or understatement, in which a statement is made with a strength than is actually warranted. Number 4. Selective misquoting. Deliberately omitting unflattering or damaging comments to paint a better but false pictures of you or your group. For example, selectively misquoting someone in order to create a different impression than that person intended is unethical. Number 5. Subjective wording. In contrast, subjective wording that shows a writer's feelings or opinions. For example, words such as feel, believe, and think are obvious sign that a writer is being subjective. Language focuses on the attitude, values, thoughts, feelings, or beliefs of the person who is doing the writing or speaking. Number 6. Conflict of interest. Some example of a conflict of interest could be representing a family member in court, starting a business that competes with your full-time employer, advising a client to invest in a company owned by your spouse. Number 7. Withholding information. To refuse to give something or to keep back something, to withhold information, support during the trial. The prosecution was accused of withholding crucial evidence from the defense. Lastly, plagiarism. Plagiarism is presenting someone else's work or ideas as your own, with or without their consent, by incorporating it into your work without full acknowledgement.
Business writing refers to memorandums, proposals, emails, and other forms writing used in organizations to communicate with internal and external audiences. Business writing is a type of professional communication, also known as business communication and professional writing. The importance of business writing is to inspire confidence in you and your business. With impending deadlines and spell check, it is easy to get careless and more mistakes, but in order to establish credibility and trustworthiness, each piece of writing must be well written. The purpose of this is to inform, to persuade, and to communicate goodwill. Writing business correspondence like letters and memos is a skill or potential that must be developed and possessed by a person regardless by his work, profession, or specialization. A business letter is a professional, formal letter that is sent by one company to another. These letters can be used for professional correspondence between business clients, employees, stakeholders, as well as individuals. The purpose of this is to inform, instruct, request, inquire, remit, order, advise, correct, and to question.
So good afternoon everyone, I am Hersey Narabal and the next reporter. So inside address or recipient's address contains the name to which the letter is written and addressed. It includes personal titles such as Miss, Mr., Mrs., or Doctor, recipient's job title, company's name, and the remaining lines include street, address, city, state, and zip code. Salutation. Salutation is the greetings part that is written in a polite and courteous manner, followed by a comma or a colon. Often begins with dear, then the person's name. So be sure to include the person's title if you know it. If unsure about the person's title or gender, then use their first name. So has comma and always ends with a colon. Part is the body of the letter. Body of the letter contains the main purpose of the letter, the very reason for writing, or it is where you write the details of your business letter. So it is very important that the body of the letter be written in a straightforward, simple, and coherent manner. So this body of the letter has 3 parts. Include introduction, middle section, and conclusion.
Parts of a business letter. Number 5. Complimentary closing. Is a word such as sincerely or praise with best wishes that is conventionally appears before the sender's signature or name at the end of a letter, email, or similar text, also called a complimentary closing, close, valediction, or sign-off. It is the polite yet business-like ending of a letter. This is end with a comma. Example like sincerely yours, truly yours, respectfully yours, much obliged, very sincerely very sincerely yours, very respectfully yours, very much obliged. Number 5. Signature block. Signature block leaves 2 or 4 lines between the closing line and typing your name so that you can sign the business letter. Your name should be your first, middle, initial, if you have one, and your last name include appropriate suffix to your name, such as MA or MD. Signature block, the name of the sender is written on the first line, then his/her position on the next line is expected that the sender will put his/her signature above his or name. Like we can see all the letters with ends in a signature. Like we need to put our name there, and we should sign it above our name.
Good afternoon, sir and classmates. I'm going to tackle about the formats of a business letter. We have 3 types of formats of business letter. First, we have block positions, all the parts of the letter to the left, single space and justified. So what is a letter in block format? A letter in a block format is a written document sent to an individual or business written with no indentations, some line break, and single space paragraph. When looking at it, You might notice that sections appear in blocks, like the name implies. Many people appreciate the block format because of its clean, simple appearance. It is a straightforward approach to the formal letter, and many professionals choose to write their business letter in a block format. So how to write a letter in block format? We have 9 steps to write a letter in block format. First is adjust the margins in font. Second is add your address. Next is include the date and also input the recipient's address. And then compose your first paragraph, and you have to add more details in the second paragraph, and you may continue with additional paragraphs. Next is craft a closing paragraphs. Lastly, close with a salutation. Modify block. All parts of the letter are tabbed on the left single space and justified. A modified block business letter is a letter that uses a format that is slightly different from the full block letter. The return address, date, complimentary, closing, and the signature line are put slightly to the right of the paper's center. In addition, these letters are the most common in organizations. This format is slightly less formal than the block format. It is most appropriate when addressing the letter to someone with whom you have a working relationship. Semi-block format, the paragraphs are indented instead of placing them all of the left. Heading is on the center and the date can be placed in the right side. 3 spaces after the heading. The recipient's address is on the left and in the closing on the right. The semi-block business letter format is the same as the full block format, except the paragraphs have indentations. If you don't like the look of the single line between your paragraphs, you can opt for this format. The semi-block format is also appropriate for the formal letters.
So let's all proceed to number 3, the memos. A memo or a memorandum, meaning reminder, is normally used for communicating policies, procedures, or related official business within an organization. So a format of memos. A memo has a header that clearly indicates who sent it and who the intended recipients are. Pay particular attention to the title of the individual in this section. Date and subject lines are also present, followed by a message that contains a declaration, a discussion, and a summary. So here is the example of memorandum. So now let's proceed to the importance of good communication at the workplace. Communication, as we all know, is critical to establishing and maintaining quality working relationships in or organization or organizations. So there are 5 important reasons to include. Number 1, innovation. When employees have the opportunity to express their ideas openly, they are more likely to present their ideas without fear of ridicule or retaliation, as they have confidence in presenting their work. Number 2, growth. Communication can be seen internally and externally. By associating yourself internally and by establishing strong communication lines, you ensure the consistency of the externally delivered messages. Number 3, effective communication. Effective communication not only talks to people, but gives them the opportunity to talk to each other. Strong communication channels are essential. Number 4, team building. Creating effective teams requires communication and mutual cooperation. This will increase morale and employee satisfaction. Number 5, the last one, giving a voice to all. Employee satisfaction can be very much dependent on their having a voice and being listened to, whether it is in regards to an idea they have had or about a complaint they need to make. Consolidated communication lines should enable everyone to communicate freely with their colleagues, peers, and superiors at any level. So how can we improve the communication of our workplace? So first, you need to include everyone. To include everyone, make sure that the communication lines are always open. Search and actively promote progress reports and project updates. This is especially important when it comes to remote personnel. Number 2, or the second one, listen and show empathy. Communication depends on the ability not only to send but to receive messages. So the ability to listen effectively greatly enhances the communication processes. This is according to Lunenburg in 2010. Number 3, or the third one, define objectives and expectations. Managers should provide clear, accessible goals for teams and individuals that define exactly what is required for a particular project, and that all of the team is aware of the objectives of the project, the department, and the workplace as a whole. Number 4, send your message clearly. Make sure your message is clear and accessible to the intended audience. To do this, it is important that you speak clearly and politely to convey your message clearly without confusion or offense. Number 5, choose your medium carefully. So once you've created your message, you need to make sure it's in the best possible format. While face-to-face communication is the best way to build trust with employees, it is not always an option. Take time to decide if the information provided on the printed copy works better than an email or whether a general note is sufficient. That's all. Thank you for listening.